Hello and welcome back to the Metropole Grid. My name is Andre.
And I'm Patrick.
And thanks so much for tuning in. This is the lower finals at NANPC Montreal. There's only 3 players left.
That's
after
right.
a long weekend of some Netrunner. So these 2 players are both on their final life. This is the lower finals. Whoever wins this will go up to face against the undefeated Erin, as she is the queen of the top cut so far, not losing 1 game.
That's right.
And these are both great, worthy opponents for Erin. On the left, you might be familiar. That's Jeff, ysengrin SC, streamer.
That's right.
Head of No Signal Games Organized Play.
That's true.
Drove into Montreal, had a lovely week here. And he's playing some Asa group, as he generally does. This is actually like 2 really great meta decks. On the left, Jeff is playing a deck that's very much like People's Champion Jai's lists that he's been playing across the Continental and Intercontinental season, winning a whole bunch of those.
Cool.
This is the sort of like Hollow Man Asa.
Yeah.
Which has good ice, fully operational, is a hell of a card, and you have to play this a bit more like a shell game than you would expect, which is kind of interesting. Just making Asa fires many times and spreading out the threats that the runner has to deal with slows them down.
The runner has to deal with the threats you're putting down. You're just like giving them taxing things to deal with.
Yeah, just go sideways for a bit. It's really, really fun. It's a card that, with rotation of FFG, I'm going to miss this identity a heck of a lot.
For sure.
And on the right, that's Paul. We've seen him time and time again. Top 8 at Canadian Nationals last year. All that footage is up on the channel. We've seen him play a whole bunch of games here. He is also playing a format-defining deck. This is Sokka's Lat list.
Ooh.
Also, winning just about every national it showed up at. This is a deck that largely its Icebreaker suite is built around making HB a bit upset.
Oh no.
So we're looking at 2 propellers that break Brawn for 3 credits.
Yeah, love that.
A whole just akimbo gun set. 2 revolvers. That's revolver for 2. Sorry, drafter for 2 with the revolver. That's what I'm trying to say.
But there's 2 revolvers.
Exactly.
That's why it's akimbo.
Yes. And we have Unity to break Gatekeeper. That's a worst case. It looks like I think Paul might have taken the mulligan. The overlay will tell you, but Jeff is off. Asa getting that double install on the remote server, icing up R&D. That's a bit of trick shot respect here. And we'll see how quickly Lat can get out. We have only, I believe, 3 cards in hand. And so the puzzle here always with Lat is matching hand size. So it's up to Paul to be thoughtful here, worry about if it's a Spin Doctor on the remote server, and feel if he can deal with the remote server, which looks like either Tranquility or Rashida.
Yep. All right, we're making some money.
Early sure gamble. It's going to take us up to 9 credits and just checking the remote server. I love this early check here. There's not that much ice that can hurt you.
Yeah,
Keeper is a bit of a speed bump pushing the runner forward, or the corp forward, but Drafters don't do anything. Ablative, that's the best case for you.
Yeah, Ablative. Like, you want to res it now before that threat dex is online.
Yes. Now it's just a cheap end to run, no face check, and the deck is on 3 of these. And so we'll see pinhole threading.
So that Rashida probably, or Nico. Okay.
Nico campaign still that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, I would also trash it.
Yes. Yeah, you're already in there. I love that you want to face check, force the ice res, and then still bring down the Rashida or whatever you expect.
Yeah, you do 2 bad things to the corp. Very nice.
Yes. We're going to be on 3 cards there, so we should get the lat draw.
Paul is taking notes in his Ubisoft notebook.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Paul does the sort of divide by 5 rule, so he checks how many cards are drawn. Spin Doctor on the remote server and fully operational. If you're not familiar with that card, you need iced remote servers with stuff in them. So a lot of times you'll just ice up Spin Doctors. You'll just make these remote servers to get that sort of echoing card to push yourself forward.
Yeah, and right now it's like a cheap hedge fund.
Yeah.
Pay 1, get 5.
Not too bad. It looks like we're just going to take a credit down to 5 credits. Brawn and MIC are the 6 cost dice you might be afraid of. That can be pretty expensive here. You don't have a real interest in running the Spin Doctor. The question is whether it's a Rashida in server 1 or even just an agenda. Now, this deck is not on seamless launch if I'm not mistaken. So the big scoring patterns it does really quickly is with Hollow Man. That's really expensive.
Yes. If you can protect the Hollow Man, you can move the Hollow Man at the start of your turn to the server which is holding the agenda you want to score. That is the way it's going to do some gnarly tricks.
Now, Hollow Man, you're paying a lot of money, but when Hollow Man scores an off-roll to office and you get $7 back, it feels pretty good. And then, of course, this deck wants to even push its board state even forward faster with powers that be.
Oh, of course, because then you get to install something which triggers Asa, and maybe the thing you installed was from archives. It's great. It's awful.
It's pretty good. Diesel draw. We're getting down a Simul chip, telework, and an Onicom just setting up.
Yeah, we're online. That's good.
A lot of these cards have a once per turn trigger, and we're not hitting any of them this turn. However, that does get the Lat card by just kind of mag dumping, emptying your hand there. And understanding we're going to have 3 charges at the telework, and we're going to have the Onicom for the rest of the game. 3rd server with Asa. This is why Asa is so fun, because you can just build board state and fully operational. Going to happen 4 times. You notice right to left is how Jeff does it, starting by drawing 2, including a Vitruvius. The question, what's in the other servers? No res, no trash, not a Rashida.
You always want to draw first. You're never going to like make money then draw. He's figuring out what he drew, and then he's going to make money based on that.
So that's a click and a credit to gain 4, draw 4.
Good work if you can get it.
Take that, Rashida. So we see a bit in the hand. I think there's one Mavirus. It has some implications in the matchup. I think this is the version of the deck. So Sokka's played many different lap versions throughout the continental season or the national season, excuse me. And this is the one that is on Cupulation. So it shouldn't be on Fazerum. So the Mavirus, I think, only hits a Palangi, if I'm not mistaken. I think Fermenter showed up in some of these lists. This actually does have Fermenter as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So we're back here. Upgrade on top of the Spin Doctor is
that a Hollow Man? I'm guessing there are other upgrades. I'm guessing there's
Tranquility, Managarm. There's a lot of options.
Sure.
Mavirus.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
And only on 2 credits here. We should have just about a full hand, and we're going to start there with a build script, getting a bit better with Onicom.
The build script. I love build script.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
I feel like... Can't tell.
Where were we?
Build script dropped.
Yeah, build script. Sorry, I said I love build script, and like my brain tried to reboot.
Onicom triggers. We had this whole conversation about how this is a card back in the day that a lot of people's dismissed inherently.
And I can't get that out of my head.
I know. And now it seems a fair bit better for one influence. Shaper has... They can do just about anything with their influence, and with Onicom, just getting a bit more card draw into a deck.
It works well with Onicom. Like it is just fine.
Thinking here how we want to contest this again. Agendas on the table. Whether it's something just kind of cooking behind the blade of might not make entirely sense, but SMC coming down early. We'll see. We have a trick shot and overclock. This deck has so many run events that just give you free money to work with. Telework for 3.
2 simulchips. I mean, like we've got. If we just have the money, we have ways to get into anything right now.
Yes, the money might be the problem here. You definitely need a trick shot because we're only on 5 credits. The Telework doing a lot of lifting here.
True.
Looks like a second Spin Doctor, obviously trashing the first one. You can only have 1 unique card rezzed. And notice here that fully operational in the bin. We don't want to shuffle that back in. Just the Vitruvius?
Just the Vitruvius, okay.
No Wage Workers, no powers that be.
Behind it 2-1.
Just a Vitruvius is a bit surprising here. Now, Jeff has a whole hand. Doesn't have anything to do with them, just throwing these out. So hoping maybe to find something a bit better on Spin Doctor, but that is not the start you're actually expecting. Just a blank 3-2 is not the tempo crimes that Asa Group wants to do.
Yeah, it's not pushing the game forward the way Asa usually wants to, but it's points. What does that say, though? Does it say...
Yeah, he doesn't have in hand what he needs here. Whether it's no Wage Workers, whether it's no... I don't think you'd haul him in that for sure, but definitely no powers that be, so the hand might not be perfect. Just wanting to use that remote server sooner than later, and this gives Paul time to recover, and recover he will. 4 credits and a card draw for the sure gamble.
Card draw from the Onicom.
One of the first things I did after this tournament is I took Jeff's click trackers and I peeled the brown paper off the back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, they're better now.
The fact that he's leaving them on there. Yeah, they're meant to be translucent, Jeff.
I think they are, yeah.
He knows they're meant to be translucent.
I don't know. Now he does.
Do you think he put the sticker back on after you were out of sight?
I threw him out. Drawn up here. DJ Fenris.
Okay.
Now Steve, HQ is open. This deck does have 2 deep dive. And against HB, a lot of times you actually want to consider playing Sable because it's hard for you to deep dive and steal Ikuas because you generally don't have a click left.
Extra click, yeah.
That being said, with HQ open and this like pile of events, really good value events here, it's a nice way to make that run make sense. And now it's up to Jeff to get something just taxing enough on HQ.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a drafter and it's 2 bullets and 2 credits.
Like sure gamble, I guess. There's 2 of those. Might as well make
2
it easy.
gambles. Because now not only is this a cheeky axis after a Spin Doctor, and as much as you could throw out the agendas here, it does just draw you a sure gamble, and that's quite a nice run. Spin Doctor, the 3rd copy.
Trash worthy?
It's hard sometimes with the Spin Doctor on the table, but there's a chance.
1 on the table and
1 in the bin. But there's a chance already the Spin Doctor on the table is spoken for.
Because those 2 face down cards might be agendas, we don't know.
Or you want to shuffle the Spin Doctor back. Now, we're also not on threat 3, so Blade is not around, so trashing that.
I think trashing it, that's interesting. Because it really is going to stress the one single remaining Spin Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, with Steve, like, I do want to say, like, I think I would have taken back the build script.
You can't. You'd have to be build script Diesel. And that is actually saying here, which is, I think, kind of interesting, is that what Paul needs here is just more money.
Yeah.
Because he has SMC Simulchip, which means in theory he can bring his old Breaker Suite on the table.
Yeah.
It's not so much that he needs more card draw, he just needs more money.
Exactly.
So we'll see here if Jeff has a pressure or Jeff has a way to slow down those HQ accesses. You see the hand, I think there's a couple agendas in there. Tranquility is the upgrade.
Probably going to install something in there.
Most definitely. We'll see if the Ace install gets a second ice. But
a second ice. Actually, second is an upgrade.
Yep. Now you know usually that the second card is not an agenda.
You know always it's not an agenda.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It can't be an agenda. That's the text, yes. Now, that being said, Jeff actually could have obscured it here and installed the card in front and then a card on the remote server so you couldn't tell whether it is or it's not an agenda. That's actually a big difference on that play line.
Yeah, but he didn't. Like, we knew the first one could be an agenda.
Yes. But now you know that that's an upgrade. So for Pinhole, this gets a bit easier if it comes to that.
Right, yes, that's true, yeah.
So we'll see if that's going to matter here. We've seen One pinhole so far. The list should be on 2. Now, icebreakers, we have a problem. It's going to be expensive to get some of our icebreakers down. Now, propeller comes in pretty cheap and breaks pretty cheap.
Yeah,
but Jeff is only on
7 credits right now.
And Jeff's only on 6.
Okay.
Now, bladed barrier, you want to force to res now?
Yep.
Because that threat 3 text, there's just one score away from that mattering on either side.
3. It feels like it should be threat 4.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of threat 4.
No?
Well, yeah, it's hard.
I like even numbers, so sue me.
It's nice. It is nice. But sooner than later, this thing is going to be online. Now, we're taking a big thing here. Paul, what does he want to do? We're going to start with the overclock. Again, this deck is just kind of defined by how much of the house money gets to play with.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're going that remote with the 2 to 3
I'm assuming
upgrades.
So. Well, actually not. SMC?
We're just popping the SMC right now. Where are we going?
I don't know if
HQ,
we're going
maybe?
HQ. We're getting out a pressure spike.
Okay.
Now, this is interesting. Some of the lists Sokka published were on pressure spikes. Some were on propeller. This is a matchup where propeller is a lot faster. We could be on both. Now, pressure spike, its threat 4 text is pretty meaningful. That is a hard thing to get to in some of the Glacier matchups. We still break Brawn for 5. But we can break longer. It looks like it's HQ.
Yep. Okay. Looks like Jeff made the right decision by not letting Paul get the build script, the superior card.
You want to access here half the hand. That is a Managarm Skunkworks, another Cat Shen.
Crashable.
You don't have any other house money, but this is really telling. What do you think is in the remote server if you find a Managarm here? It must be the second Managarm.
Yeah, could be.
So trashing this Managarm might not have that much value. Now that brings Jeff down to 1 card in hand, so other HQ pressure is a bit tighter. Anakam going to draw after that overclock.
Is it worth running archives now? Like, you've got to maybe force the spin if either of those 2 face downs or agendas.
You can consider it. You definitely can. You would love a dirty laundry or some way to make a run work for you. Now, Anakam is already triggered. Forcing the corporation to draw worse cards potentially. I'm not sure if Jeff wants an agenda here. If it's an off-world office in the remote server, like he needs a seamless if he's on it to be able to score out. So Luminal's maybe the worst case. I don't know if he can afford to score at a Vitruvius for 3 credits and not advance the board state. Yeah, we're still waiting on 3 trick shots, let alone Steve to return those trick shots to make him up to 5 trick shots.
Using the telework, last of the teleworks. Let's see.
Now, thinking here, what we want to do, we have access to the simul chips immediately if we want to pull back the self-modifying codes.
Yeah, we do want to pull back the self-modifying.
Just a trick shot?
Maybe right now, frankly.
So this is the nice way to use that. Now, when the run's successful, you'll get 6 credits, so you can just swing the blade of and have even more money if you want to invest into rebuilding or building, your icebreaker suite. So it looks like no res. Jeff needs to be able to res the ice on the remote server. Okay, and we're going to have 6 credits running that remote server in a second.
And if we don't spend it to trash things, we'll have that money to like go get an SMC. So
off the top, that's a drafter into a fully operational coming up. We're going to take some notes.
Only you could trash the fully up, huh?
That's a good one. You can couple-8 it if you have it. Put it in the bowl, but we don't have that just yet. So now we're going to be swinging the remote server with 6 credits and access to 2 simul chips. The question is whether Jeff can res something to be taxing enough. Now, the most taxing ice this soon, if I'm not mistaken, should be Gatekeeper. If Unity is the breaker, it kind of stinks to break. Now, you can just, instead of going for Unity, go for a Palangi and make the Gatekeeper a barrier. That might be cheaper with the pre-installed pressure spike. It is the Managarm too.
Let's see.
The Managarm is the defensive upgrade you're expecting. That goes down for nearly free with still 6 credits left during the run, and it is the Managarm. So you have to pay 2 clicks or 5 credits, and we don't have 2 clicks, so 5 credits should be easy.
5 house credits.
Down to 5 credits left, so we see what we can access. It looks like it's a Mavirus. Ooh.
Okay.
Jeff just forcing the interaction out. Now, this is where losing the second Managarm from HQ 1 click ago can be a problem, because if he loses this Managarm,
then it's really taxed. And
and this is where the Spin Doctor is actually getting stressed out in so many angles.
Oh my god, yeah.
Jeff needs an ablative barrier to bring back board state.
Yep.
Now, we're not getting an SMC just yet. Simon chips can be tricky. Again, you have to trash a card, and I don't think we want to trash a pressure spike, so we'll see if Paul brings back something before he ends turn.
Yeah, you want to do it at the end of this turn because you've already trashed a program this turn.
Creative to end. Just gain 4 credits.
No simul chip for a SMC.
It looks like no. So we might have another program coming up soon that we can use. And we're going to shuffle back 2 face down cards if I didn't miss that. Again, apologies. We're doing the edit before I've done the motion graphics. So I love doing this to some extent because I can understand how much the motion graphics help.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
So we're going to shuffle stuff back. Again, we know 2 Managarms are in the bin if that didn't go back. We know where some of the Spin Doctors are as well. This deck is on 3. And once we hit threat 3, there should be a fair bit more recursion in the deck with the Blade of Barriers. And that can really matter to keep those defensive upgrades, to keep the Spin Doctors.
Of course.
In
not to mention
archives.
the powers that be.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Got to score out, though. And Jeff right now is floundering. We saw a fully op coming up, but he needs that for the economy because on 4 credits, The deck doesn't have Regolith. It doesn't
No.
even have Hedge Fund. Well, it might. Some of these don't have Hedge Fund.
Right. It's got, we know it's got Nico, maybe not
Yeah.
many. It probably doesn't have.
Sometimes a full suite.
Yeah,
Just
you
to
think
put
it's full
stuff in
suite?
remote
Okay,
servers,
sure.
yeah.
That's
Sometimes
true,
you're okay with it.
It's just a good enough asset.
Yeah.
It is a good asset. I
It's a
like
good
Nico.
asset. Drawing up there.
We wouldn't have Mercury if it wasn't for Nico.
No, it's true. Options in hand. I think we see a Biotic Labor, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to install there no Asa, but actually we have a fully operational.
Okay.
I don't know if that the
It's
card
not a
was missed.
fully operational.
No, but you like the 5 credits we're getting off of
Yep.
that.
That works well.
So big
Okay,
thing about
back to
Asa is
Paul.
how often you can get fully operational. And this is the thing, like we have the Tranquility Home Grid server. Installing in there gains you 2 credits, but we are going for another server just to
Yeah.
get fully off. It's kind of the same, but now this splits off the things. If you put both your threats in one server, it's much easier for
Yeah, it's
for Paul to run it
too
down.
tempting. You can get in there with one click, splitting them up like this. Maybe we'll tax out the runner.
Now a big problem here is HQ just hasn't been iced yet.
No, and we've still got Steve, and
Yes.
Steve has a lot of juicy targets.
So Paul can run HQ and say overclock trick shot and just continue to
course.
play these events that are again just a massive amount of click compression, money and a run. It's a lot of value.
Yep.
Diesel.
Okay, Diesel for 4 cards.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Anacom.
Anacom. Love the tapping Anacom to remember that.
I don't know if you
use it.
remember this. This actually came up on like an earlier round. That
I
on
think
the first
so, yeah.
round,
Yep.
Paul forgot whether he triggered the Anacom. He's like, I'm going to start tapping this. And now we're like 24 hours later. He's still
Anytime
in
you
there.
play a tournament of basically any level above the most casual, you will learn lessons that stick with you
Yeah.
for days. Not your life, but certainly days.
We're just doing a check on how many cards are face down in archives.
Just
It
the
looks
one.
like a single one.
Okay.
Paul, surveying this board state,
Yes.
definitely seems to be in control here. The
Eyeing
defensive
his
upgrades
prey.
on 9 credits. We do know exactly all the ice in this deck and what it can cost you to res. I think
Yep.
the biggest pressure here, the biggest tension is those simul chips don't actually do that much.
No, not right now. Certainly.
You'd have to like destroy your pressure spike to bring it back eventually.
Yeah.
But
Pressure,
now
pressure spike.
we'll see if that card in the remote server is going to put some pressure on, whether it's a Rashida or something you feel like you have to deal with, the wage workers. Paul's only on 6 credits. And notably, the Sokka's deck list, compared to a lot of other deck lists, doesn't have that much money. Like
Okay.
it needs to make
Like it's going to run out, basically.
Yes, it needs to make the clever runs.
Yeah.
It needs to make the targeted runs. If you overextend and spend 5 credits running something like the Mavirus, that can be a problem. Now, it's still all been house money because it's been trick shots and overclocks.
Yeah,
but
and
you're
we-
relying on this sort of
And
stuff.
we've got this Steve out early.
Oh,
like
Steve is huge.
We are going to be making our money. We're 50% more money than we would normally.
And there you go. Options, card draw, and credits. Definitely not
Okay.
exactly equal. And we're going to go for the slower option, telework.
Yeah, I'd be happy having the telework from this, honestly.
So
Okay.
it is the Biotic in hand.
So the single in hand is a biotic.
Yes, no. Biotic can score out of Vitruvius. It can score out of Luminal. That's 7 credits, and one of those sounds better than the other. We're not sure if this list is on Claude. I think this list might actually still be on Claude. Apologies. We don't have access to the deck list at the moment. But if that's the case, you're not sure you're worried about simul chip into SMC. We'll see if Paul wants to do that. It's very expensive when you trash your pressure spike, but it's just another wrinkle in this game. Understanding
Yeah.
that you can't just Biotic out at every point. At some point, Paul will call. HQ has been run here. Again, this is a timed round. We still only have 40 minutes, but players are being thoughtful about this. Telework and just take
Just
3.
making a bit of money. Sure.
Okay, money is stabilizing. Jeff is drawing unknown cards. Lat draw, only 1 card in hand. Again, Lat has been struggling to get the card draw here. Jeff has been pretty aggressive emptying
Yeah, Jeff
his
has been
hand.
playing around it by only having 1 card in hand.
Yeah.
I guess he might have. It's a hard thing to say that you're doing on purpose.
No, you do. Often you
but,
do.
but often you do. It's true.
Yeah, if you can. Again,
Yeah.
PD gets 6 card in hand. Asa can maybe just dump the hand. And we're starting with a Biotic.
All right, so we are doing a biotic.
It's a 4-2 on the table?
so
not being
quad,
checked.
Advanced a
Whoa. Offered office for 7.
So we make our money back.
Again, this is not PD. This is not powers that be. That is
Yep.
just points. Now, this
It's
is
just
big.
points, and we don't get an ace to trigger. We don't get
No.
powers that we don't get anything.
Don't
funny
get
from it.
tranquility, but Jeff here is threatening to win the game. If a Holloman can stick on the table, if you can install an Ikwa, you can pay all that money you need to score the agenda out.
Yep.
Ikwa is going to cost you 2 credits and a click, but we're expecting at least 2 Ikwas in the deck, and that is now something that Paul has to worry about getting to the remote server.
Yeah, and Paul has no agendas yet, so Paul has to start being aggressive. We are going for a dirty laundry, forcing the
Creative
choice between creative and dirty laundry.
creative. I think you don't want the dirty laundry because
Yeah, the
it
dirty
makes
laundry is a
you,
bit too much value.
it allows you to get Steve easily.
Is Steve plus money? Yeah.
But this Steve, oh no, in hand.
Okay, so he sacrificed it. Okay, wow.
Now you knew that was going to get run with the Steve here, and now that is the worst top deck Jeff could have asked for on the turn that he wanted Biotic out. That probably feels terrible. Whether you want to not Biotic and be cool and let the thing cook in the remote server and just draw to 3, hopefully get an ice on a HQ, but that was just the worst top deck. If you're going to pursue the Biotic, that must feel kind of rough.
Okay.
Now 2 points. We're going to go to the Diesel, draw 3. Just trying to find our breakers here. Again, the Simul Chips, you can use them to pull the SMC, but if your breaker suite is things like, Revolver, those end up running out of bullets.
Yep.
If you need to pull in Clots or Pelongis like Copilations, you kind of want to protect the Simul Chips. And it's very obvious on that last Steve run that here Paul is making it obvious he needs card draw.
Does Paul have Clot in his deck?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have the deck list. Maybe. There's always the threat. There's like 2 or 4 influence. That's a Fermenter.
That's a NANPC Fermenter from Scott Ominga.
Yeah. So that's going to get ticked around. This is the card that it's very likely Paul will trash this on a turn that he wants to go in.
Yes, and then that becomes the trash requirement for the Simul Chip.
Yes. Creative Commission is known. Jeff is now down to no cards in hand. Take that, Lat. But anything he top decks, he has to figure out how to use that elegantly. Whether he can find an ice on HQ,
maybe click to draw just to get more options. Okay.
Tranquility.
Tranquility. Are we going to use Tranquility to draw?
No, just gain 2. Put 2 things on the table. Paul did not check that last turn. Sure. Understanding that it's hard to check it. If it's a barrier, be that as it may, but anything else forces out Simul Chips. Yep. And now we're very importantly on threat 4. So Ablative Barrier has text and very good text. They see their Jeff checking his keep, his archives.
Checking every card, so Paul doesn't notice that he's checking a single card.
And if you ask me, a lot of times when you check archives, it means that there's a Spin Doctor on the table or an ablative. Like, you should know from time to time, but it's sometimes a read. We'll see if that's going to matter, if Recursion's going to come back up. Paul deciding here for Mentor, you can crack for 4 credits, but his money is now really good. 12 credits, open HQ. We're going to start with the Pinhole. This will give you some information.
Let's see what happens. Well, wouldn't you go through HQ?
Yes, unless we want to run HQ for a single later, and that's just a Nico.
But there's nothing in HQ. But there might be if we find a Spin Doctor, of course.
Yeah. But running HQ here, you're right. You'd get the Steve trigger.
Yeah.
And that's quite valuable. You can get both those to fire at the same time.
Yeah.
We did go archives. It was the Nico. We're going to trash that. Now the other remote server, that's exactly the game before where Jeff said, like, I have a double ice server, a single ice server. Where I'm going to put the agenda, you kind of have to tell what I'm doing.
Yeah. And you have to be thinking about Hollow Man.
Self-modifying code. We're going for the overclock.
Okay.
We should be able to get any breaker down. Jeff not loving to res here when it's going to be broken for free. So if you don't, we get in this awkward situation where you can decide whether you want to keep your overclock credits to trash things or whether you want to use them to just grab a breaker and say, like, I'm going to need my revolver sooner than later.
Yeah, it looks like you're going to... Is he prepaying for the SMC?
Yeah, we're SMC cracking. Let's see if it is probably either the Unity or the Revolver. Now, Revolver is the worst face check. Unity is the end of the run on whether it's MIC or Gatekeeper. Revolver, firing a draft is pretty rough for you, but we'll see what's in the remote server, and it's just a Wage Workers.
Okay.
4 to trash.
We've got nothing left from the overclock to use to trash that. It's probably worth trashing, though, because this is one way Jeff wins. Oh, but we're not going to trash it. Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting trash. If Jeff wants to res that, he can do draw, then ace install. That's pretty good for him. It's something also, as long as you can control the remote servers, it might not matter. Because advance into a 4-2. That's actually not what Jeff really wants to do here. He wants to score the
That's kind of an awkward way to end it.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, we're going to leave that on the table. It looks like we're running HQ here, so we're going to get the Steve draw. We're deciding what the options are. Again, we should have we have 2 overclocks. That's easy. If you can pull 2 of the same card, it doesn't make a choice, but it ensures that you get exactly what you want. I'm deciding here again, Simul Chip another target this turn if you want to, but with the Fermenter, we might not be too taxed out. And it's just going to be a Stone Chip Chart Room. I don't actually think we're running HQ this turn. Yeah, I think the Pinhole could have gone HQ. Top deck, unknown, draw. You can draw a second time here and decide to res the Wage Workers if you want to get the extra click. It does cost you 2 credits.
We're going to do that. Yep. We draw again to get the click.
Yep. Now we've done 3 of the same thing. It looks like there's a Rashida in hand.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, this is the hard thing, is that Paul can just run HQ and get an overclock. So it's hard to make a taxing remote server. Install, and then we're going to gain 2 off the Tranquility, so that's going to break even. You saw no credits move around. That's largely why that's happening.
Yeah.
And now it's back to Paul here. Fermenter on 6 credits. There's Maviruses in the list. I think one of them's already in archives. And we're still missing a killer here. We're going to start with the Stone Chip.
Okay.
Now, sometimes you can use that to hit lat draw, but at least a lat draw, that's like the best thing right now. Jeff Sports say it's a bit unconventional, but at least lat has not been triggering turn after turn. It's more so still no ice on HQ. And I think Dirty Laundry, we're going to go HQ here. Let's see if it's double overclock. Right? Yeah. I think double overclock makes a fair bit of sense. Going to pull those two again. Not really a choice. 2 cards in hand. If there's an agenda, does it stay in hand or does it go into the remote server? I think we're definitely going to see Paul challenge the remote server, and we're going to find a Tranquility. 4 to trash. Gaining credits off that Dirty Laundry. Getting the card draw on the Onicom. The remote server again. We'll see what we challenge it. I think we should know where 2 Managrams are. So the options for defensive upgrades, that's the hardest thing for you to deal with.
That's true. Yeah.
Now the question is whether the ice can be taxing. We're up on a very healthy 16 credits. And right now Jeff is only on 8. So rezzing a Braun brings him to a point where he can't threaten to score out anything. Yeah.
And the threat text on Pressure Spike is online. So Pressure Spike's working pretty efficiently.
Still 5 for Braun, if I'm not mistaken.
Braun is gross.
Yeah. It's still pretty good. Now we do have the overclock guaranteed. R&D pressure. We've seen 1 trick shot, if I'm not mistaken. These decks actually don't often play Conduit or any other way to close the game out. Right now, all Paul wants to do is find another agenda, hopefully a 2-pointer, or sorry, hopefully a 3-pointer, and then just close with a deep dive.
Yeah, frankly, ideally a 5-pointer.
All right, cracking the fermenter. That looks like we're going to open up the possibility of using a simul chip.
That activates the simul chips. We've
gained 6 there.
Yep,
if not mistaken, and we should challenge the remote server. With a click left is nice. If you think there's an Iquan, we're just overclocking the remote server. So 5 more.
So
credits.
much money.
There's been so much money from Steve. Steve has just been doing
Steve's
so much work.
Well. No res.
It looks like triple no res. So where Tranquility might just come down as much as we see another Rashida for 1.
Crash the whole server for overclock money.
Might as well there. You have the money. It's not going anywhere else. And this not only deals with fully operational, has 1 less server with something in it.
Yep.
We'll see here if Paul wants to swing over there and deal with the wage workers. He has a pretty sizable credit lead and kind of wants to use the simul chip this turn.
Yeah,
he has cracked the fermenter.
Yeah, you might as well go for it.
Yeah, there's also some respect that the thing in the remote server is a virus and he doesn't want to get purged out, but very healthy 21 credits to 8.
Yeah, and we didn't install an SMC with the simul chip. We had an opportunity to, but we were waiting on it.
It's fine. The later the game goes, the more you can use the simul chips just like reload guns.
Yeah, true.
So it's not going to be the worst. And finally, Ice on HQ, emptying the hand as well.
No.
So we should know one of those cards is guaranteed the Tranquility, if I'm not mistaken. On top of...
The golden age is over.
Unknown, yeah. It's no longer a free buffet. R&D there. Still probably a lot of points left over. This card on the remote server, technically, does it threaten to be the game point? So you have to spend exactly 8 credits to score a 5-3 with a Hollow Man. It's 6 to fire, 2 more to advance. So I don't know if that's the case, but if that's Hollow Man into 5-3 territory, the Iqua, you have to run this. Now dropping a Pelongi, that gives you some flexibility. You might actually not need your revolver here.
Yeah, true. You might not.
I feel like we've seen a lot of overclocks. I think we've seen a couple overclocks.
9, 10 overclocks, whatever.
Running that remote server. It's so hard here. If you don't start rezzing your ice, again, you're not going to be taxing at these credits. And that's actually a really big deal here, is that Jeff hasn't presented a way that Paul's forced to spend credits. Now, they've mostly been shop credits, like house credits. Like, they don't actually matter.
The overclocks, the trick shots.
Yes. But you need to, like, slow down this. You need to force the runner to just res stuff. It looks like it might be a Spin Doctor, considering we're checking. So 1 Spin Doctor was shuffled back on that first Spin Doctor.
Yeah.
But checking archives there, maybe actually an ablative is a check as well, because this allows you to install something in a different server. It can be a non-agenda from HQ or archives. Setting up a Tranquility would be okay.
Checking out what mistakes we've made over the course of the day.
And just on 9 credits here. So a Braun will be rezzed, but broken for free. Rezzed for 6. Still no rezzes. Only 8 credits.
You rezzing the last one?
Whether it's a Gatekeeper, maybe that's it, or a Revolver to use a Pelongi. Sorry, a Drafter to use the Pelongi counter. And it looks like it's finally an ablative there.
I mean, ablative's going to get you something.
Yes.
That's why he was checking archives.
Huge threat 3 text. Now, if you put a Rashida, I think here you might go either for Tranquility or the Managarm.
Or to over-install an agenda with a spin.
That's a Spin Doctor. Now, you have to do a different server, so you can't save agendas if they're in this server.
Oh, that's true. That's ablative text. My bad.
So Pressure Spike here, if we want to break for 1. There's 2 cards in there. One of them should be Tranquility. The other, an unknown. So we'll see if it's just like a nice old Nico campaign.
Ablative, we are thinking.
Again, if you want to use those credits on simul chip or something else, but it looks like it's a Spin Doctor.
Okay.
Not too surprising. I think we checked archives. Ablative makes sense too. So draw 2. If you want to send it HQ to get some pressure for Steve, those are 2 unknown cards that Jeff had no control over. So oftentimes if they Spin Doctor mid their turn, running HQ makes sense.
Probably one HQ, and someone who's been checking out what gets drawn into HQ, probably very interested in that.
Spin Doctor coming down for 2, Tranquility for 2 more, 4 in total. We've gone through the overclock, actually spending credits from credit pool.
For sure. Do we go after the other card that was installed? Do we know that was a Spin Doctor?
You know it is. I'm pretty sure we definitely know what it is. I think it's a Spin Doctor,
yeah. Double check.
Get the Onacom draw. That was the overclock.
Because if you force another draw with Spin Doctor, then HQ is looking very juicy.
Yeah. That being said, if you run HQ and like Jeff reses the Spin Doctor, it tells you that one of those two cards is probably an agenda and he wants to dilute. So it could just happen, let alone we want the Steve trigger. There's still 2 overclocks in the heap. There's always 2 overclocks.
There's always one more overclock in the heap.
So Paul here thinking definitely in a bit of a better spot here on only 7 credits. Jeff has only ablatives to show for his board state. And that is the least taxing ice in the deck. Now, Wage Workers can do something, whether you want to click for 3 and do that double install, that's an efficient turn for sure, but we're at the point where you need to defend a Holloman and a 5-3 on the table. We're running it. It is a Spin Doctor.
Okay, so we're diluting HQ. We're going to res...
There's HQ run, so there must be an agenda in there. Oh, actually, the res now makes sense no matter what, because we're looking for an ice to install with Tattoo Bola.
Yeah, true. That gives you an Asa install out of turn.
Yes, very cool. Whether you want to put a defensive on HQ or just swap something. Okay. Again, we're going to install. I think I get to tell Jeff to keep his ice on the table. It's always nice to call out the head of OP for...
Oh, you got to love that, right?
Yeah,
oh
it feels so good.
So satisfying.
Yeah, just keep your tattoos on the table. Definitely Jeff showing the Tattoo Bola in hand here. We get an access. We get a Steve. Whether we go for 2 draw options, it looks like double pinhole is also a really clever play as well.
Pretty useful too.
It means that you don't have to run the remote server. You can check what it is, and it pressures.
Rubbing his palms together.
Should be good access. These are 4 cards drawn mid-turn, and that's the worst one to hit.
Yeah, that's the one you know.
That's the one you always definitely know after the Tattoo Bola swap.
Unfortunately, yes. Tattoo Bola does have a probability field
around
it that's
demoralizing.
Yeah. I don't know why we designed it that way.
Steve getting tapped there, create a commission to finish. Again, the money here is so good. Now we're waiting on 2 more trick shots. And by 2 more trick shots, I mean extra Steve trick shots on top of that.
That's true, yeah.
So right now, Jeff has to do something, has to force the narrative into the remote server.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely cornered. This ice that has been res so far is not it.
And he's back to 9 credits, which is a good amount, but still an amount that would be devastated if he resed an MIC or a Brawn.
He has an Ico in hand. We just saw that come off.
Paul is organizing his heap in pairs, looks like.
Triple drawn to Wage Workers.
Okay.
Going to end with a hedge fund. So money, but the cards are in hand. So Jeff now, at least with the Spin Doctor, can decide to send off the big Icoas.
Yep.
And just have them shuffled back in the deck. Now, back in the deck can be a scary thing.
Yes, you can force them to be shuffled in and then the trick shot for multi-access.
But the problem now is like both of those central servers, Paul has a really good reason to run.
Yep.
Whether it's to get Steve turn after turn after turn, or whether it's to run R&D because of trick shot, and you just want to see the top card of the deck.
That's right. I think I saw Nicoa still in HQ.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
He might want to keep one because it's the only way that he can win.
That's the way to win.
Oh, Couple-Ations. Now, what do you want to see when there's a 3-pointer?
Very good. That becomes a legwork, and we're just going to...
Not only a legwork, so the Couple-Ation right now is pressuring Archives because you can couplate a card from Archives. But if you couplate a card from HQ and run back, it becomes better than a legwork. Oh, because you always see 4 cards. That's most of the HQ.
That's true.
But instead, we're running Archives here. Again, there should be a virus in there. Pelongi might get purged out. It looks like we're shuffling back Biotic Labor. Biotic Labor can be interesting, but with Biotic Labor, Wage Workers, and Holloman, you actually can fast advance out 5-3.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of tricky, but you can do it.
If you can get enough clicks together in one turn, you can do it.
And I think there's a chance with both Couplation and Fermenter that this does not have influence for Clot, but you'd have to do a bit of math. We still haven't seen Hannah. Hannah could be a 2-influence slot in the deck too. There's a couple like different options that we've seen floated that Sock has been playing throughout the national season.
I like Hannah as an option. That's fun.
It's really important because you need to get an extra click during a deep dive to steal Icoas.
Of course.
And we're still 2 steals away from deep dive closing the game out, and that's another threat. Gatekeeper finally getting rezzed on HQ.
Gatekeeper, and we don't have a fully powered Unity, but we've we can get in. We can afford to.
Yeah, it costs 3 to 4 credits if I'm not mistaken.
No way to know.
1, 2. I think it's 4 because you boost to 2. No, actually, it's more.
I mean, in the comments, some math nerd will let us know.
I think it's 5. Yeah.
No, it's probably not less than 6.
Very expensive. Now, you could simulchip there and get rid of the Pelongi to install an SMC to get a breaker. That actually does make it cheaper, but not in a rush to double Dirty Laundry.
Offering a choice between Dirty Laundry.
Yes. Couplation did not steal a card from Archives.
Oh.
So we might be going HQ twice here with 5 cards in hand. I do love that line. 5.
Or are we going to Couplation the card? Well, we don't need to, as it turns out.
Don't need to. You can... we deep dive this turn if we have it? We ran HQ, we ran Archives. We have a Dirty Laundry. Oh, no, that's a last click.
Yeah, we're out of clicks.
This is really frightening for Jeff. Because with just a Gatekeeper res, now it's 0 strength.
Yeah,
you cannot favorably interact with the deep dive. And most importantly, it's not about the Icoa, right? Until we draw the Hannah, if we have it, you can't deep dive and steal a 3-pointer because of the way the Icoa works.
But at this point, every
any other.
Every other, but
now Compilation still doing some work here. We know there's a Rashida in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we want to jam their moat server again, you do need to keep the runner busy. And busy can be tricky when there's still 2 overclocks there paired on the top of the deck, and it costs you 2 credits to get them.
Yep.
Which still makes it relatively profitable if you want to get access.
Still 2 trick shots hanging out somewhere in the stack.
Yeah. Jeff thinking through again.
Hanging his head in shame. I think he's still reeling from you correcting him a bit earlier about the rules.
He's had such a great weekend here, and it's very obvious his Ace of Group deck drew in the way you wouldn't want it to.
Huh. That's the thing about these shuffled decks.
Draw. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if we drew first click, so whether we can get another draw for Wage Workers, but we're over-installing with the Ace install, getting rid of that ablative again.
Okay.
The credits might matter more for the runner here, or sorry, for the corporation more than the runner. So
yeah, you might be trying to get credit perfect here in order to pull off something amazing. We'll see.
But not dealing with the Wage Workers actually does give Jeff an out, whether it's Biotic into Holloman to score a 5-3. Yep. He has a Luminol in hand, a 3-2. If he wants to eventually Biotic that out, he can maybe go for the 2 more score pattern.
Yep.
Which is not great because he only has 8 credits.
Yeah. And it won't. Oh, man. It's going to be awkward to end the game like that, but at least it would get an agenda out of hand. And maybe that's important enough right now.
Oh, Pinhole is a start. We're going to find what that is. We're imagining it's a Rashida. Rashida it is. That's getting trashed. This is an Archives run too. So if we want a deep dive, we've made one of the 3 important central runs. Onacom to draw up. Whether we want to pressure HQ, again, HQ you can easily run next, go get an overclock R&D. You're going to be spending very little money. Dirty Laundry even, of course, known quantity here. Return to hand last turn. We're going to be running HQ. There's a Luminol in here. If we find it. Also, we could have couplation, funny enough, the Rashida just to get the sort of ammunition to throw HQ. There's a lot of ways to access more cards here.
For sure.
Deciding what we want again. The Archives feels like it's always the same size. Cards are coming in, but cards are coming out just as fast.
Yeah.
Double creative.
Okay, double creative.
Again, he's down to only 6 credits, but we have 5 more coming in for the Dirty Laundry. One of these is an agenda. It's 5 the lucky number here. Drafter.
Okay.
We've only seen 3 ice res so far, deciding whether he wants to take it. Now, if he takes this and runs back, there has to be an agenda in Jeff's hand at this point. I think just sending it back right now, seeing most of the hand, Jeff is in a really hard spot. If he draws an agenda, where does it go? He has to be in hand still.
Yeah, unless this is the deep dive term, which it also could be, right?
If it is, that's a safer play.
That's also a safer play, and then we can do the accumulation on a later turn.
Yes.
If the deep dive doesn't work out. I think the deep dive is the safer play.
It's just Jeff here has done some filtering with Spin Doctor, but any card that he draws, and he's been clicking to draw on a couple of these turns, there's nowhere for it to go. So seeing 3 on HQ, most of HQ is relatively safe here, but I also don't think Paul is in a rush to do anything.
No, that's the thing. Paul feels in control, and he's not seeing a threat.
Yeah. That Wage Worker is the only thing that Jeff has going for him. If you do want to take it down, that is kind of expensive. Again, the money is slowing down here. We've got so much value off of Steve, but down to 10 credits, that Wage Workers does become expensive. We've seen I think a couple fully operational so far, and that's another reason to want to pressure that.
Yeah, I think we've seen 2.
Credit into Creative Commission might just be the end of this turn. Yeah, there you go. Game 5 credits.
Okay, good enough.
Up to 15. Jeff losing the drafter, but top decking. I think another drafter. Oh, Biotic.
Okay, I think we're just going to get an agenda out of hand.
I think it's just a Luminol out of hand. This is such a hard choice to be in. Do you want to spend 7? Now the question is whether it's called. Oh my god!
Oh no!
Wait, this was so funny.
This is brutal.
So he goes Biotic, advance, and then Paul says, "Hold on," to ask for the claw trigger, and Jeff looks at him. I know your deck list, and Paul says, "Oh," and laughs, and then he scores out the last bit, knowing there's no claw in the deck.
Yeah.
But Paul either reactively or as a rule, you should pretend there's claw.
Yeah. As a rule, you should pretend there's clot.
Yes. And just click for 3
But
cards.
also, it's possible Paul has been playing a clot deck before this, and then,
And Jeff just looked at him, I know your deck, and he laughs. This is a double Wage Worker's turn, so Biotic is going to be possible to close this game. There should be maybe one more Vitruvius, if I'm not mistaken. Now, there's only one Biotic Labor, so we have to get that back into the deck here.
Yeah, really.
But that was a double Wage Worker's turn. First on the triple advance, and then following the triple click, so still at 6 credits, getting that agenda out of hand.
We're not threatening an insta-win right now.
No.
And we're just drawing with the stone chip.
Getting cards in here. We have seen no killer so far, and we've seen one drafter captured already here on the Crucible. But they're sending an HQ, just starting for a trick shot. There's so many agendas in R&D here. We're running with a click left. This can't.
Checking all the ice. What could possibly keep him out?
Yeah, now you want to also be careful not to run last click because if it is the last ablative of Rashida hits, but we're just looking at 2 cards here, not taxing out. These accesses can be huge. And off the top, it's a Vitruvius. That should be it.
That's it. That's the game. That's 7
Oh,
points.
the last points.
Cool.
Good game to both players. Followed there. And the hand, Wage Workers, and 2 ice, and on sell as well. But
we get to see.
There's not a lot of points left in the deck.
No, not a lot of points left anywhere. Yeah.
Well played to both players. That is going to be Paul moving on to the finals. But
that's right.
What an absolute run across that weekend. Jeff showing up, getting to compete. Mostly does organizing, but does play quite well, turns out.
Yeah, we were glad to have Jeff come up here. And sad to see him go.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But very glad for Paul and for Depth Dive, the Montreal testing group.
Let's go.
Moving on into the finals.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Should be the finals just coming up.
Can't wait.
Yeah, such an interesting match. Like, Paul did play control. I think Jeff had some weird windows, and that's like, these are the sort of matchups where you see, like, Jeff is in a rough situation and has to make the best of it. Like, scoring a Vitruvius with no tech, spioting at the Luminal. Like, these are lines you don't see often, and it's how, like, you kind of react to these board states where you draw it weirdly. No ice was really res. Nothing was taxed out, and that DJ Fenris
got so much value. That's incredible.
Well played to both. Again, NANPC Montreal, we're off to the finals. And that's going to be up here real soon. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back in a bit.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao. Hey, thanks so much for watching. What a fantastic matchup between 2 great players. Jeff, drawing in not the best way, not resing a lot of ice, not causing a lot of money to come out of Paul's pockets, but at the end of the day, still just getting points on the table and pushing himself forward, trying to close that game. Whether it's scoring a Project Vitruvius with no additional advancement counters like it's 2013, sometimes that just has to happen. And I'm so stoked to see what a single Biotic Labor in the deck can do to just try and push you towards points when those remote servers are getting challenged by those run events. And speaking about run events, I think Paul played 20 credits worth of overclocks, 20 credits worth of dirty laundries. A lot of that is obviously the open HQ. Steve Cambridge is a hell of a card, but just getting that sort of run-based economy and pushing everything down, incentivizing Jeff not to res. Steve Cambridge is doing, I think, the most I've seen in any matchup in such a long time. Shout out to both players, great players. Paul is going to be going on to the finals. Jeff, fantastic run again. Shout out to Head of Organized Play at Null Single Games. Really appreciate his work. But thanks so much to both players to have a great game on camera. And speaking of thank you to all these names here and more. The Métropole Grid, we are supported on Patreon. It gives us the time and the ability to put these videos together, the editing, the live streaming, all the sort of stuff that goes on to this channel. I'm so grateful for all the support of all these names here and our daily cast patrons. If you are interested in supporting Netrunner content like this, you can find the Patreon link down below. Any sort of contribution is incredibly appreciated. If you want to take a second to like the video, that helps a heck of a lot too. And we'll be back again. The finals are just coming up next weekend when we're normally getting our videos out on Saturday. That is the World Championship. I'll be in San Francisco doing some casting. Tune in to twitch.tv/nullsignalnetrunner. We'll be there. So we're actually going to get the finals up a bit faster. It should be Wednesday afternoon if I'm not mistaken. And with that, we'll be back real soon with some NANPC Montreal footage. Thanks so much for watching.